Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of D.E.I. Deathwatch, where we chronicle the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'll get that right eventually. I've only been doing this now for a couple of months and things. Hope everybody's doing well on this beautiful Monday afternoon. As we had seen on Midnight's Edge in the morning earlier today, StreamYard may be having issues. From my side, I can't tell for sure if there are any issues. So if you notice any issues, I don't know if I can address them, but do let me know in the chat, because maybe I can. We'll find out as we go. But who's joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon? The Alexander. Good afternoon. Anonymous. Good afternoon. Walter Tomaszewski. Good afternoon. Off topic. I don't go off topic here. I saw Midnight's Edge in the morning. They discussed cable companies, amongst other things. I used to be a billing rep for Comcast Xfinity 2006 and 2012. About 2009, they decided they wanted to be a data company rather than a cable TV provider. It took a few years for that to change, to take off. That might explain why certain studios have been acting over the past decades up to today. It's possible. Changing visions, changing leadership, different ideas, different priorities. It's all part of the mess. Morgan King, good afternoon. The lovely Sherry, hello. And Keeverdam, good afternoon. And thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the links to the GoFundMes for our friends Twisted Skipster and Angela Arriaga, guys at the top of the chat box. Please take a look at those when you have the opportunity. Twisted Skipster is raising money for his daughter's wrestling club, and Angela Arriaga is looking to start a home-based business. If you can donate to those, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share those out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the links. Who else is here? Mike R., hello. Robert Pincus, good afternoon. Mike Savage, blarg. The Best Remy, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Anybody else? Juliet, hello. JPS, good afternoon. And Hi, I'm Steve, hello. Anybody I missed, anybody in the future, and anybody who's, I don't know, on the ethereal plane, let's say. Sort of like Johnson & Johnson's records regarding their hiring practices. Let's talk about this story. This is the top story. Because I could have sworn, I thought to myself, I thought I did some research in the past on Johnson & Johnson for a stream or a video I didn't end up doing. And so when this story showed up today, I thought, I think I have some stuff in my archives. And I did. But let's talk about it. Johnson & Johnson denies engaging in illegal DEI practices after group makes civil rights complaint. Uh-oh. America First Legal calls for federal investigation into Johnson & Johnson's hiring practices. Well, why for would you do that? Johnson & Johnson is denying any wrongdoing after being accused of violating federal law and a Trump executive order with DEI hiring practices, according to an investigation request submitted by America First Legal. Quote, Johnson & Johnson has always been and will continue to be compliant with all applicable laws and has never engaged in any quote-unquote illegal DEI, unquote. A Johnson & Johnson spokesperson told Fox News Digital. AFL is accusing Johnson & Johnson of violating the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the federal government's Equal Opportunity Clause by engaging in what they claim is unlawful hiring and employment practices that they have openly promoted in past disclosures. The conservative legal watchdog is calling on the Department of Health and Human Services to launch an investigation into the drug maker, claiming the company committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion violates federal law and affects every aspect of the business. Let's see. Quote, Johnson & Johnson's public representations regarding the role of equity in its employment practices reveal that it systematically and intentionally ignores its compliance obligations and instead violates their equal opportunity assurances to the federal government, AFL wrote in a letter to the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights. According to Johnson & Johnson's 2023 Health for Humanity report, the company sought to have 50% of its management positions held by women and 6.8% of management slots held by Black and African American employees by 2025 as part of its quote-unquote aspirational goals. The report pointed to its progress in achieving 49% women representation and 6.5% Black and African American representation in management slots, as of 2023. Quote, the company's disregard for American civil rights is brazen. It boasts about creating equity across our systems and fostering and advancing a culture of inclusion, the AFL complaint said. A LinkedIn business post entitled How Johnson & Johnson is Building a Diverse Talent Pipeline claimed that the pharmaceutical giant used data to monitor its talent goals and holds leaders in the company accountable to them. The article claims the diversity of the talent pool they are recruiting from is tracked as part of this data. Quote, one of the measures we are starting to look at is not just the readiness of the pipeline, but what does the diversity of that mix look like? In order to provide a score or assessment of the strength of the pipeline, unquote, Johnson & Johnson executive Sarah McKenzie said in a video interview that accompanied the article. The article said the purpose of providing such an assessment on the talent pipeline was to ensure that diversity becomes, quote, a natural feature of the hiring landscape, unquote, and said the company also holds external recruiters accountable for the diversity of their talent pool. Johnson & Johnson's 2023 DEI Impact Report stated that its leaders are responsible for developing, quote, diverse and inclusive teams, and its 2023 Health and Humanity Report detailed how the company would partner with women's professional associations in order to achieve parity in management. Parity in management. Now, parity is like what, 50-50? Yeah. Let's see. Johnson & Johnson had 3,719 contracts in 2024 with the Departments of Health and Human Services, Defense, and other agencies, according to usaspending.gov, with $11.6 billion in potential total value. That seems like a lot of, federal financial assistance. Upon taking office in 2025, President Donald Trump issued an executive order banning federal agencies from doing business with companies that engage in discriminatory DEI practices. And then they go into the Title VI, or the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So I tried to find some of their past diversity reports, Johnson & Johnson, at first. But they've all been scrubbed from the internet. Yeah, unless you previously downloaded them or you go to the Wayback Machine. But otherwise, you can't find them anymore through Johnson & Johnson directly. So the article did a good job of summarizing it here, but let's take a look at a couple of those just for fun. Just for fun, let's take a look at a couple of their past reports. So this first one is their 2021 Health for Humanity report, Let me do a little searching here to get to the meat of the matter. Let's see, we have diversity, here we go. Yeah, empower our employees. Here's our year in brief for 2021. Empower our employees. 87% of employees would recommend Johnson & Johnson as a great place to work. Well, that's great. 34% ethnic/racial diversity in management positions within the U.S. No. Okay, well, that's a good thing, I guess, right? Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell us about your diversity? Let's see. Let's see. Health for Humanity 2025 Goals Scorecard at a Glance. Oh, so this is a 2021 report, but they have goals to achieve by 2025. Oh, okay. Racial and here I gotta zoom in on this a little bit. Okay, women in management. The percentage of women in management positions. 50% is the goal. They were on track as of 2021. Ethnic racial diversity in management. The percentage of ethnic/racial diversity in management positions in the U.S. Their goal, 35%. Black/African Americans in management. Their percentage goal by 2025, 50% growth from 2020. Oh, so it's a timeline plus a percentage plus a comparison to a previous year. Oh, but you see, guys, these are just aspirational goals. These aren't quotas. No. Having a percentile goal that you're on track to reach by a time limit in your hiring practices based on gender, ethnicity, and specifically race, those don't tempt fate with civil rights laws. No. Johnson & Johnson would never engage in any illegal hiring practices or indicate that they would be. No. But also global supplier diversity and inclusion. Spend with Tier 1 small and diverse suppliers. Oh, what's your goal on that one? You want to spend $4.5 billion and you exceeded it as of 2021. Okay, so you spent money specifically on businesses based on the ownership fitting a diverse category. Okay. Yeah, this is Johnson & Johnson, everybody. They're there for the equity and inclusion, and by the way, they're totally in compliance with civil rights laws. Always have been. Let's see, health equity. Yeah, well, we're talking about employment. But that was the 2021 report. Do you think things changed by 2022? Do you think they might have gotten a clue by 2022? Well, not really. 2022 Health for Humanity report. And what do I see? Oh, empower our employees. 36% ethnic racial diversity in management positions within the U.S. Achieving the Health for Humanity 2025 goal. They already reached it. By 2022, they were 3 years ahead of the game. They already reached it. That's good. Anything else they'd like to report? For 6 years in a row, included as the Seramount Top 10 Inclusion Index member for diversity best practices. They've got awards, guys. Look at all this. They're ESG awards. From the Access to Medicine Foundation, from CDP, from EcoVadis, from ISS ESG, from Moody's Analytics. Oh, look at this. They got so many awards. Best Employer for Diversity, says Forbes 2022. And we know how Forbes loves their diversity. They achieved their 35% ethnic racial diversity in management positions. They achieved that goal in 2022. They were still only on track in 2021, but they achieved it. They were still on track for their 50% of women in management. They were still on track for their 50% of black African Americans in management. Oh boy. But these aren't illegal. These don't tempt fate with established civil rights laws, guys. Johnson & Johnson is totally blameless on this one. But one more, just for the sake of being complete. The actual Health for Humanity 2025 goals. This is the actual report thereof. Our ambition. Let's see. Where's the human criteria? Goes from the company. With these goals. Our focus areas. Pandemics and epidemics. Oh, okay. Our people, our planet, our partners. Well, if we jump down to page 6. Our people. Women in management by 2025 achieve 50% of women in management positions globally. Okay. Ethnic racial diversity by 2025 achieve 35% ethnic racial diversity in management positions within the U.S., where it really matters. Black/African Americans in management by 2025 achieve 50% growth of our black African American employees in management positions in the U.S. And so at least in 3 different public reports published by Johnson & Johnson, 2021, 2022, and as the article quoted in there, 2023, and this overall 2025 goal list, Johnson & Johnson said again and again and again and again and again, hey, look at our racial and gender quota system for employment decisions. But yeah, I'm sure there's no case against Johnson & Johnson. I'm sure they should not lose all of their federal contract money. I'm sure they should not be taken to task legally for years of countless civil rights violations and hiring and promotion practices. No, I'm sure everything's fine. Let's see. Scribe at lunch. I am not. I might be out to lunch, but I'm not currently at lunch. If you're at lunch, good for you. I'll have lunch after the show. Chicago Mike, how you doing? Digi, good afternoon. Who else is here? Unfair Ophelia, hello. Blue-eyed Scream, hello. I miss anybody else in the meantime? I hope not. But yeah, there you go. There's Johnson & Johnson being taken to task for they're obviously totally in compliance with federal civil rights laws all these years. But here's the question. I'm fine if America First Legal wants to take them to task. I'm fine with that. That's not who should be doing it. I really hate the fact that I keep making and have to keep making this complaint every time I do one of these episodes when we talk about a case like this. Who should be taking them to task for violating the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Who should be taking consequences to them for violating the Civil Rights Act of 1964? For saying loudly and proudly for the last 5 or 10 years that they've been doing this? Who should be doing that? The federal government should be. They should be pulling their federal contracts, and they should be levying other penalties, I think, given the enormity and the longevity of their practices. But thus far, are we seeing anything? Have we seen any private company punished for the same kind of things that the Trump administration is fine punishing universities and colleges for? Not so far. It's been a lot of bluster. It's been a lot, we're going to make a list. We're going to make a list of the top 9 offenders. I understand. I get it. The wheels of legalities roll slowly. I get it. But we're now nearly halfway through the first year of the second Trump administration after all these declarations, and I haven't seen anything. Nothing tangible. Nothing, you might say, substantive. So I am waiting with bated breath. Maybe it'll be in year 2. Maybe year 2 of the second Trump administration will be when they start releasing the hounds on private business when it comes to DEI or civil rights violations. I can only hope, but still waiting, and I guess waiting is the hardest part. Moving on, so that was Johnson & Johnson. Be keeping an eye on that case as things roll out. Also, on the thumbnail, I had Cuyahoga County, Ohio. Ohio! I have a couple of friends in Ohio. You might have heard of them. Sinatra Says. Satsu 2 Cents. Let's talk about Cuyahoga County's DEI defiance. Officials stand on values despite Trump's funding threats. Well, this is the thing. You have to stop making them just threats. You have to stop making them just threats. You have to follow through. That's what I keep waiting for. In an era when political winds can quickly turn into financial hurricanes, Cuyahoga County is standing its ground on diversity, equity, and inclusion principles, even as Donald Trump's administration threatens to cut off critical federal funding streams. On Friday's episode of Today in Ohio, hosts discussed the county's high-stakes balancing act between preserving values and protecting taxpayer dollars, revealing the complex realities facing local governments in politically divided America. Protecting taxpayer dollars. Well, the question is, are taxpayer dollars reasonably going towards programs that are inherently discriminatory? I think it's Donald Trump who's looking at protecting taxpayer dollars in this instance, but let's move on. Quote, "The county is in a tough spot right now," explained Lila Atassi. Quote, "On one hand, it gets a lot of federal funding for things like transportation and health programs and infrastructure, and that's money that could be on the line under Donald Trump's new wave of executive orders that target anything related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. And on the other hand, though, county leaders are making it pretty clear that they're not backing down from their core values," unquote. I've said it before. Okay, well, tell you what, we're just going to audit all of your programs that you would put under the umbrella of DEI for compliance with existing federal civil rights laws. If you're in compliance, great. If you're not, your federal funding will be withdrawn. That's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to make new law. You don't have to have an executive order. That's all you have to do. You say you're in compliance? Great. Show us everything you have on paper for the programs that you say are DEI related over the last decade, and let us take a look. And if you're fine, you're fine. But if you're doubling down on it, well then, okay. The county's stand is admirable, is it? But potentially costly. Executive Chris Ronayne, administration has told the county's Equity Council they remain fully committed to DEI work. Well, of course they do, because it's their jobs. If there's no DEI work to be done, they don't get to pull an extra paycheck, including closing health disparities. Disparities, you say, okay. Promoting inclusive hiring, which means discriminatory hiring, and supporting minority and women-owned businesses regardless of federal pressure. Okay, so you're going to support businesses on the basis of who, or I should say what, owns them. That sounds like gender and racial discrimination. Oh, but that's okay. Right, okay. But the reality check came quickly in the discussion when Chris Quinn predicted, quote, "I salute him and the city, which has done something similar for standing on their principles. But I do think it's inevitable that Trump will take the money away. Look, he doesn't represent blue areas. He clearly only represents red areas that voted for him. Or he's simply enforcing federal civil rights laws that have been around since the 1960s. But you guys have decided to make it an issue of party affiliation. Anyway, he clearly only represents red areas that voted for him. Cleveland and Cuyahoga County is a blue area, so he will not have the slightest hesitation to wipe away the money." Well, he hasn't done it yet, so there's some hesitation. Quinn said a fundamental misunderstanding about DEI fuels the conflict. Oh, boy, tell me. Tell me, what is a fundamental misunderstanding about DEI? I'm always wanting to be educated on this. Quote, we should point out this isn't about quotas. We should point out this isn't about quotas. What did you say earlier about closing health disparities, promoting inclusive hiring, and supporting minority and women-owned businesses? If you're not using statistics to try to, quote-unquote, level the playing field on this issue, I'm not quite sure what you mean by this isn't about quotas, but let's see. This isn't about quotas. This isn't about giving disproportionate contracts. It isn't? It's about dedicating yourself to making sure everybody has a fair chance at the contracts. This is basically saying we will be fair, and that's what's under threat, unquote. Okay. How does evaluating the worthiness of a company's support on the basis of the gender or race of its ownership, how does that promote fairness? When you use code words like inclusive when it comes to employment decisions, I don't need to go on very long to describe how that certainly does not promote fairness. That's not fairness. That's discrimination. That's preferences. You're putting a value on what people are, not who they are. The county isn't sitting idle. Oh, I can imagine they're not. Officials are conducting a comprehensive inventory of programs and federal grants to identify potential vulnerabilities. Why would there be any vulnerabilities? What vulnerabilities? Everything they're doing is on the up and up. Everything is about fairness. This isn't about illegal discrimination. Everything's fine. Why should we be auditing what we're doing? We already know we're the virtuous actors here, and Donald Trump is just being a red state authoritarian. Okay. One example highlighted during the podcast is a federal grant application to extend the county airport runway, which specifically asks if the county has a DEI program, a question now fraught with political landmines. Again, they shouldn't just be asking about DEI. They should just be talking about compliance to existing law. Tassi identified the profound irony of the situation. Okay, quote, "What's playing out in Cuyahoga County is really a test of how local governments navigate political headwinds without abandoning their values under this administration. I mean, the irony here is that DEI programs were created because federal systems historically excluded people. Yet now federal funding is being threatened if communities even acknowledge that inequality exists. DEI programs were created because federal systems historically excluded people." What history is DEI attempting to fix? I mean, post-1964 and amendments and additions since then. Federal systems historically excluded people. But is that happening now? Is that still on the books now? DEI programs were created because of things that happened in the past. Yet now federal funding is being threatened if communities even acknowledge that inequality exists. No, you guys are practicing inequitable decision-making. That's it. Are you the right race? Are you the right gender? Otherwise, this money will not be apportioned to you. The county's response represents a microcosm of the larger national debate. Can local governments maintain their commitment to fairness and equal opportunity when federal funding is weaponized against those very principles? Fairness and equal opportunity. Yeah, this is a microcosm of the larger national debate. How can jurisdictions, local, state, and otherwise, somehow finagle their way out of being held accountable for violating federal civil rights laws for years and years and years? Because of a total and absolute lack of enforcement up to this point. Again, examples need to be made very harshly, and need to be made within the boundaries of existing civil rights laws. Stop using the DEI moniker on everything. Just mention and talk about existing civil rights laws. They get to hide behind the ambiguity of that phrase all the time. Well, what do you mean DEI? I mean, our program to do XYZ isn't discriminatory. We put that under our DEI heading. Are we supposed to take, school lunches away from children that can't afford them? That's part of our DEI program. You would starve little children. Setting themselves up for problems either way, but yeah, we need to have an example made. A clear, unambiguous example made. Advocates Daily, federal policies have historically excluded people, so local policies must currently exclude the opposite people or something. Yeah, we have to right the wrongs of the past by committing the same crimes that the past were wrong to commit. Fighting fire with fire. The only way to balance things out is to mechanically balance them out and artificially even the playing field by giving preferences to some and disadvantaging others on the mirror image of the situation as it was 60, 70 years ago. And by doing that, we will make everything right again. Or something. Anyway, moving on to a different state. The Sunshine State? Wait, is Florida the Sunshine State or is that the Citrus? I forget. What's Florida's moniker? Anyway, Palm Beach County, Florida. Palm Beach County, facing loss of $600 million in grant funds, suspends their DEI programs. Oh, are we out of compliance with federal law? Do we risk losing all of our federal money? I guess we should, reconfigure ourselves and assess what we're doing. Palm Beach County commissioners have suspended all DEI programs to avoid the risk of losing more than $600 million in federal and state funds used to pay for airport improvements. Oh, just like in Cuyahoga County, highway work, and scores of other capital projects. The end of diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts means the Office of Equal Business Opportunity will no longer be able to steer county work to women and minority-owned businesses. Oh, you mean they'll no longer be able to give contracts to businesses simply on the basis of what their ownership looks like? Can you imagine a scenario where a county steered county work to businesses based on the fact that their ownership was white and male only? Can you imagine the uproar that would cause? The completely legitimate uproar that would cause? Oh, but no. If we favor the other gender, if we favor other people on the basis of their skin color, that was okay. Oh, but now that we're going to have the purse strings cut, oh, well, now I guess now. A program it oversees required contractors to grant part of their work to certified women and minority-owned companies. Required contractors to grant part of their work. Did that part equate to, say, a percentage? Sort of like a quota? Yeah. In the third quarter of 2024, minority and women-owned companies received contracts worth more than $7 million, or about 9% of the total awards. The county department will continue to exist, but will not require any awards to be made based on race or gender. Oh my God, guys, can you believe that? Can you believe that? A county in America in 2025 isn't allowed to give preference to people and businesses on the basis of their race or gender for contracts? Can you believe? Wow. Golly. How sad a state are we in? At least as sad a state as Florida, that we're in the current year, in 2025, this has to be reined in. Following an emotional 2-hour discussion, the commission voted 6-1 on June 3rd to accept the county attorney's call for the suspension to comply with President Donald Trump's 2 executive orders prohibiting the use of federal funds to promote gender ideology or programs based on race and sex-based diversity. Well, you know, there was something that you guys could have adhered to long before Donald Trump made his declaration. Oh yeah, it was Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. Do you think Palm Beach County received federal financial assistance? Oh yes, it did, through $600 million worth of grants. Do you think the terms programs and activities would extend to county contract work? Is county contract work a program or an activity? Yes. An emotional hearing. Oh, we have to follow the laws that have been on the books since the 60s? Why? Oh. Commissioner Bobby Powell, the lone black representative on the commission, argued that DEI programs are needed, quote, to level the playing field. Yeah, to level the playing field based on gender and race, not on merit. We need to be discriminatory to not be discriminatory. Powell called the executive orders troubling. Well, what does Powell think about Title VI and Title VII? I have to ask, what does Bobby Powell think of Title VI and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Do those trouble him as well? Ann said, quote, they will shut out hard-working Americans trying to achieve the American dream. Well, hey, Mr. Powell, what about all those Americans shut out from opportunities for county work on the basis that they weren't the right gender, that they weren't the right race? What about that? And how did that value carry over into other county decisions all this time? Tell me, oh, tell me true. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, you're not in any position to quote Dr. Martin Luther King if you think the executive orders to make people comply with civil rights law from the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is troubling. That is, you want to talk about hypocrisy. Most of Powell's colleagues agreed, well, that's good to know, but said they had no choice but to suspend the DEI programs or risk losing hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funds. Yeah, well, it does come down to it, doesn't it? Like, well, I mean, you might be right. You might be morally right, but we've got our paychecks on the line, guy, and I gotta. We have our values, but then there's the value of our values, and the value of our values doesn't equate to $600 million. So, quote, disparity studies. Well, you already lost me there. What do we say, guys? A disparity does not inherently indicate an inequity. So even before I read the rest of this paragraph, you've already lost the argument. But anyway, disparity studies show that minorities and women have not received their fair share of county work. What is their fair share based on their gender and their race? What is a fair share? How do you estimate the worth of someone based on their race or gender? Commissioner Greg Weiss, which is kind of ironic given the circumstances. Fair share. What is their fair share? Quote, this is one of the most difficult votes I have made, but we cannot afford to lose those federal funds. Disparity studies. You know what? I bet you, I agree with you, Commissioner Greg Weiss. I bet there is a disparity, but does that mean an inequity exists? No. But you didn't say an inequity study. You didn't say we have a study where we found that county commissioners or the decision makers when it comes to county contracts have been acting in a provably racist and or sexist way previously to our artificially trying to bolster people up on the basis of non-meritorious elements of their makeup. No, you said disparity study. Oh my gosh, guys, there's a bigger number against a smaller number. Crime! That's the kind of thinking, apparently, at the Palm Beach County commissioners. The county is in the midst of another disparity study. Oh, I'm sure it'll be very productive. That must now be suspended. Oh, you mean they're going to have to not spend taxpayer money to point out that bigger number worser? More than $400,000 has been spent on that work, so good. Good gravy. Oh, man, I've been in the wrong business. Oh, man. I've said it again and again and again. If I had just had no morals, if I'd thrown my ethics out the window back in 2018, I'd be a multi-millionaire by now. I could have taken all the garbage I was hearing from YouTube videos and translated it into a career. And the way that I live my life so very frugally elsewise, man, I'd be set. D.E.I. goes by the wayside, I'd still have bank. Oh well. Let's see. Weiss noted that the county attorney pointed out that a department director receiving a federal grant has to certify that the county is complying with Trump's executive orders. Well, also, how about complying with civil rights laws? There is the threat of criminal charges against the county employee if he or she wrongly certifies that the grant complies with the executive orders, he said, adding, quote, we cannot let that happen. I'd rather you guys were worried about complying with existing law rather than trying to lay this all at Trump's feet, that all of a sudden now, like, oh my gosh, we have to follow the rules. Or that Trump has somehow changed the nature of reality through the course of this executive order. All he effectively did was underline the fact that there are laws that exist, and all you guys have been violating them for years. But Commissioner Sarah Baxter defended the executive orders, arguing that they help ensure that everyone is merit-based. Well, good for you, Commissioner Baxter. She referred to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. having a dream that one day everything, quote, would be based on the content of our character and not the color of our skin, unquote. Well, good for you, Sarah Baxter. She argued the two executive orders are designed to prevent discrimination. Sarah Baxter is correct. Sarah Baxter, if I were a Florida resident, or Palm Beach County resident, is the only one that I would vote back into office at this point. Quote, hiring the best person for a job is a good thing, not a bad thing, said Baxter, one of 3 Republican members on the commission. Quote, I cannot understand why we would condemn this, unquote. It's a good question. But apparently, according to Greg Weiss, disparity studies are the reason. $400,000 spent on a new disparity. We're not even talking about whatever they've done in the past. Can you imagine how much money, if they haven't even finished this new study, and they've already spent $400,000 on producing it? How much money went into the previous disparity studies that they conducted? To show that, oh yeah, well, can you believe it? This number bigger than that number. Man, $400,000. Jeez. Powell countered by saying people often refer to the Dr. King speeches, but they fail to do the research needed to realize what he was saying. Powell, this is Powell. This is the guy that said that we haven't had, wasn't it, what did you say earlier? Troubling. Right, he called it troubling. The executive orders were troubling, underscoring existing civil rights laws troubling. And they will shut out hardworking Americans trying to achieve the American dream. Even though he's supporting policies that would shut people out from opportunities because of their skin color and their gender. But they failed to do the research to realize what he was saying. Well, what was he saying? What was the sentiment when he said that we should be assessed on the content of our character, not the color of our skin? What needs to be assessed? Quote, people don't know Dr. King like I know Dr. King. The diversity of this country is what makes us a better country. Dr. King did have dream. I really hope that this is a mistake on the part of the author of this article, and that I'm not reading verbatim what this guy said or how he said it, but I'll read it again. Dr. King did have dream, but there are still two Americas today, Powell said. Yeah, and you know who's promoting that idea more and more through their policies? People like you, who think DEI is good, who think that assessing people on race and gender is good. Imagine if we got rid of that thinking. If only there was some kind of, I don't know, legal mechanism and process of potential punishment for violating such on the books. If only. In April, the Palm Beach County School District also repealed the district's diversity, equity, and inclusion rules and statements, heeding a threat from the Trump administration to pull federal funds from school districts that don't drop them. At risk is $300 million from the federal government in fiscal year 2025 used to recruit, train, and retain teachers working in schools with a high percentage of poor students. The money is also being used for student meals and to teach special needs students as well as those still learning English. Right, so won't somebody please think of the children? County Attorney Denise Kaufman said her office could legally challenge the executive orders, but noted that several such challenges have already been filed. She expects the U.S. Supreme Court to make a final decision in about 12 months and suggested the county await the outcome of that litigation. The suspension will stay in effect until then. Well, what's going to happen to the Supreme Court? Hey, Donald Trump said, you guys better not violate existing civil rights laws. Civil rights laws that have been on the books since 1964 and nobody's tried to overturn, and the elements of which the Supreme Court, in several instances now in recent memory, affirmative action, the reverse discrimination quote-unquote decision just the other day. What do you think is going to happen? Like, Title VI and Title VII are still a thing. We just used them to knock down affirmative action, so either comply or face punishment. Boy, County Attorney Denise Kaufman. I don't know what you expect the U.S. Supreme Court to do in this instance, but I guess we'll find out. Kaufman said she urged that the commission act on an emergency basis after the Department of Airports concluded it could not certify a $10 million grant due to the DEI programs in place. Because the June 3rd vote was classified as an emergency, it was necessary that it received the 6 yes votes it did to pass. Like Vice, Commissioner Joel Flores said he was reluctant to vote yes. He said he was deeply troubled by the executive orders. Well, you and Powell are friends then. He argued that DEI programs help fuel economic growth. Really? Well, then why is it that after years and years of you guys doing this, quote-unquote, women and minority-owned businesses still haven't received their fair share of work. But the executive orders punish the very communities that have helped build this country. The executive orders reminding you guys of existing federal civil rights laws are punishing the communities that helped build this. Okay. Quote, that being said, I cannot allow the county to risk losing all that federal money, he said. Well, that's why it's built into the law that that's what's at risk if you violate under Title VI. You know, the people that wrote this were pretty smart. They said, if a recipient of federal assistance is found to have discriminated and voluntary compliance cannot be achieved, the federal agency providing the assistance should either initiate fund termination proceedings or refer the matter to the Department of Justice for appropriate legal action. This is what you guys have been risking the whole time. It's just that nobody decided to call you out on it. Somebody finally did, and you guys are claiming injustice. You're the ones that have been violating the law. But you know, such is the way of things. Let's see, Advocates Daily. Scopes will make the same decision they just did, 9-0, discrimination. I mean, I could see Sotomayor or Jackson trying to find some weird legal nuance around this, or try to. But I don't see where they can go, because it's about established law. I think the whole using DEI as the watchword for it is counterproductive and allows for people to make these petulant complaints. But at the core of it, yeah, we're not talking about anything new. Donald Trump did not pass new law. We've read in several articles now where the executive orders have been categorized as reinterpretations of the law or new legal standards or something like that. They're not. His executive orders do not work without the existence of specifically Title VI and Title VII. So it's flavor text. For all intents and purposes, Donald Trump's executive orders are flavor text. He just told the federal government, you need to be doing what you should have been doing this whole time, but for some reason everybody just looked the other way. So, there you are. Data Wasteland is here. Hey, Data Wasteland. Anybody else I missed? TC! Hey, TC, how's it going? Anybody else? Plague Trucker Zach. But Scribe, you're white, as far as I know. You wouldn't be getting any of those sweet dollary dues. There have been a few white DEI advocates and consultants out there. I've profiled quite a few in my TED Excellence series and elsewise. So, yeah, admittedly, my share would probably not be what was fair, but given I'd be making money off of doing practically nothing, I don't know how I'd have much room to complain. Ames S. Good afternoon. Penny! It's Penny, everybody, from Midnight's Edge. Classically speaking. Hi, Penny. And Shady Grin. Hello. Anybody else? Scrolling. Brian Morissette. Good afternoon. And I hope I got everybody. If I missed you, let me know you're in the chat. Oh, there we go. And Adam Nixon. Hey, Adam Nixon. Hope you're doing all right. I only got a couple stories left, guys. But let's see. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about this one. HBCUs depend on federal funding. It all seems to come back to the same place, doesn't it? Their leaders are walking a tightrope on Trump's DEI attacks. Boy, historically black colleges and universities. Do you think a college and university that focuses inordinately on skin color might be under threat of losing federal funding under, I don't know, what's that they call it? Yeah, Title VI? Maybe. Let's find out. Like many of his predecessors, President Donald Trump has affirmed the importance of historically black colleges and universities, hailing them as a pathway to careers and a better life for students in the U.S. The schools have not faced cuts to federal grants of the kind that have rocked Ivy League schools Trump has blasted as hotbeds of wokeness and anti-Semitism, and the president has said HBCUs' core federal funding is not at risk. But that is not to say it's a comfortable time for HBCU's leaders as the Trump administration cracks down elsewhere on programs to support underrepresented students. The colleges have been expressing gratitude for the administration's recognition while mostly keeping quiet on its sweeping attacks against diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. It's like, as long as we duck and cover, oh boy, we get to hide behind our category for now. Quote, HBCUs in general, I don't believe, are in a position to be adamantly and vociferously opposed to these attacks, but deep down we all know what is going on, said Duran Snyder, an alumnus of and professor at Howard University. Oh, that's Kamala Harris's alma mater. Quote, it's just how much you can actually say without fear of retribution. Well, I'm not so much concerned about what you're saying. My question is your college in compliance with federal civil rights laws? If the answer is yes, I don't care. If the answer is no, an executive order signed by Trump in April recognizes HBCUs and pledges his administration's support. It calls for an annual White House summit, private sector partnerships, and an advisory board within the Education Department, but it does not guarantee any new federal funding. The order won praise from some black universities. Okay. I know Trump is probably playing politics with this one, but if they're accepting federal financial assistance, it can't be a black university. If it's a university that has historically been black, okay, you can keep calling yourselves that, but you can't be a black university. Now, all that stuff, having racially segregated, publicly funded colleges and universities was supposed to end a while back. The order won praise from some black universities, including Howard University and Morgan State University, as well as organizations that work with HBCUs. Harry Williams, president of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, said the order should serve as a call to action for corporations, foundations, and lawmakers to redouble support for HBCUs and their students. Why specifically HBCUs? On what basis? I think you guys are losing the plot. I think Donald Trump has added to the confusion by taking a leaned-back stance on this. But the college's leaders have said little on other administration actions that are out of line with the mission of HBCUs, which were founded to educate formerly enslaved people. I understand what they were founded for. I understand the term historically in their category. But we are long past that. So what in the modern day is out of line with the mission of HBCUs coming from Donald Trump, specifically? The administration's, and we get a pop-up. The administration's campaign against DEI has encouraged restrictions on classroom discussions around racism. So wait, Donald Trump didn't say you couldn't talk about racism in classrooms. I don't know if you know that. Okay. Has encouraged restrictions on classroom discussions around racism. Well, that's the choice of the professors in the classrooms, not Donald Trump. And led to cuts in federal research grants. Well, if you've been practicing unlawful, programs or activities at your college or university, then okay. As it threatens to cut federal funding from schools, some colleges have shuttered diversity offices and ended other programs to support students of color. You can't... You know why that is, right? I don't know how much clearer I can make it, or that the drafters, the framers, let's say, of the Civil Rights Act of 1964... You are not allowed to discriminate on the basis of race in your programs or activities if you are receiving federal financial assistance. So if you have programs or activities that are specifically for students on the basis of their skin color, you are violating federal law. End of sentence. For HBCUs, the moment is reminiscent of the era decades ago when black colleges were compelled to argue that school segregation was wrong, but also needed to maintain government support for their institutions. said Mary Beth Gassman, a Rutgers University professor who has studied the history of HBCUs. Decades ago, when black colleges were compelled to argue that school segregation is wrong, it is, but also needed to maintain government support for their institutions. Well, then you don't have segregated schools. Black college leaders, quote, don't want HBCUs to be under the umbrella of D.E.I., but I don't know any HBCU president who would agree with the way that Donald Trump is dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, she said. Well, then, I guess every HBCU president does not support the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'm giving myself a headache trying to wrap my mind around this. The Trump administration has cut federal research grants for several universities, pressuring them to comply with his agenda. His agenda! AP! Associated Press, would you please read Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964? I have a distinct feeling that it predated Donald Trump's agenda from the White House. I have the sneaking suspicion. Since Harvard University refused the administration's demands for changes to its policies and leadership, the government has slashed $2.6 billion in funding, which the Ivy League school has described as retaliation. Or you might call it enforcement. You might just call it prescribed enforcement. In an interview in April, Trump told News Nation that black colleges and universities should not be concerned about losing their funding. U.S. Representative Terry Sewell of Alabama, vice chair of the House HBCU caucus, which is interesting in and of itself, said there has long been bipartisan support for the colleges. But she said there will be new vigilance of their federal support in light of the administration's record on programs serving minorities. Okay. Sewell, a Democrat, said it is also alarming to see the administration move to dismantle the education department. Well, that's a whole other subject. Why is this here? Quote, we'll be pushing back fiercely against that and do all that we can to make sure that our HBCUs get the money that they deserve, Sewell said. Well, as long as they are in compliance with federal civil rights law, I don't care. Are they? Because I'm being told that several presidents of HBCUs think that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a bad thing. She said the Congressional Black Caucus has been paying close attention to the Republicans' funding plan for a program that supports 19 HBCUs through the Department of Agriculture. Okay, Williams of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund said HBCUs have exceeded all expectations of the opportunities they have provided for underrepresented students. Okay, how have they done for expectations of opportunities for not underrepresented students? He said he is grateful for the administration's support, but when asked about its actions towards diversity initiatives, he said the administration has challenges it is working through. In other words, you don't agree with them, just say that. Quote, hard work pays off and education pays off. That's why these institutions are so critical to this country, he said. Okay, quote, the realities of those other challenges that we're grappling with right now in terms of what the administration is dealing with as it relates to their priorities, we were just pleased to know that they recognize the importance of what these institutions have done for the country, will continue to do in a very deliberate way, unquote. All right. Very diplomatic there. Very diplomatic. Just because a college is historically black does not mean it should now be remaining segregated or something, or given special treatment on the basis of race and skin color. Which is it? We're going to have these little islands of where, oh yeah, we can violate federal law and other colleges can't? If eventually I see lawsuits in the future of one form or another, if that continues. Toot Sweet popping in to say, hi everyone, I'm at work so I can't stay. Well, have a good day at work, Toot Sweet. Also, your internet's favorite lunatic, Good afternoon. Let's see. Adam Nixon, doing good, working hard, and looking forward to going home in about 3 months. Hey, you keep at it, man. Bit by bit, day by day. And you'll get there. I know I can't even imagine how rough it is right now, but you'll get there. It's all a matter of adaptation. And speaking of adaptation, in the most loose form, here's someone who is adapting and is emblematic of how colleges and universities are adapting. I just hope that they're not allowed to continue doing so in this way because UNCC official no longer employed after being caught on video saying she covertly pushes DEI. A University of North Carolina Charlotte administrator who was secretly recorded admitting to finding ways to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion ideology despite a ban on the ideology is no longer employed. Accuracy in Media released a video of Janique, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I'm going to say Janique Sanders on May 28th, telling undercover journalists she and other university officials have renamed, reorganized, and recalibrated to continue pushing DEI ideology. Oh my gosh. Her comments seem to contrast with a 1-year-old University of North Carolina Board of Governors ban on DEI offices and programs system-wide. Quote, if you're looking for an outward DEI position, it's not going to happen, she said on the edited video. But if you are interested in doing work that is covert, there are opportunities, unquote. In a statement to the College Fix on Wednesday, UNCC spokesperson Christy Jackson said the, quote, employees' statements were inaccurate and do not reflect the university's actions, unquote. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You know why I don't believe you? Here's why. It is a separate example, and it is only related sort of tangentially. But let's take a look for a moment, shall we, at California. Why do I want to look at California? I'm not talking about current events. I'm talking about something that happened in 1996. In 1996, affirmative action was outlawed in the state of California. I know, it's crazy. Crazy idea that California, of all places, would have outlawed affirmative action. So unlike many other states and colleges and so on that still took part in affirmative action because it hadn't been outlawed on a federal level yet, on a state level it was outlawed in 1996. Now, what do you think the colleges and universities in California have been doing since 1996 when it comes to the spirit of what affirmative action was meant to do? Do you think they said, oh, well, I mean, if it's illegal in the state, then we should be completely in compliance with that notion and that intention and not do anything that would risk being interpreted as giving people a preference on the basis of their race in particular? Do you think that's what the universities and colleges in California did? No! They looked for every single possible way they could try to finagle the numbers and the recruitment and the advertising and the admissions process to not technically be called affirmative action, but as much as possible try to achieve the same ends as affirmative action. Because you can't stop an ideologue unless you stop an ideologue. Ideologues are going to ideologue. So what we're seeing now is the microcosm of what California was since 1996 up until affirmative action was outlawed on a federal level, is that, nature will find a way. Bad ideas will find a way. Rules lawyers will find ways around to still get the outcome they want without technically violating it, or by having people above them look the other way to actions taken that are obviously meant to violate the rules, but they're putting up enough obfuscation that they can try to get away with it. Boy, there is a low humming plane or something right now. I don't know if that's coming up on the microphone, but that is like almost subsonic baritone going on. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Her comments seem... Oh, I read that one. Right. Quote, the individual featured in the video had no policy-making authority, no role in compliance matters, and was not authorized to speak on these issues. Following an internal review, the individual is no longer employed by UNC Charlotte, Jackson said via email. Well, I don't know. She was doing something. And if the whole idea was she's saying she and other officials were being covert about it, who were these other officials? Also this week, a University of North Carolina Asheville administrator who was caught in another accuracy in media undercover video investigation, admitting she breaks the rules to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion, is no longer employed. An administrator, you say? Okay, what was the position of the person they videoed up here? A North Carolina Charlotte administrator. What kind of administrator? What was she administrating over? UNCA Dean of Students Megan Pugh is seen on camera talking to an unknown person whom Accuracy in Media identifies as its hidden camera undercover investigator. Pugh says regarding DEI work, she has got to, quote, keep it quiet, unquote, and responded that, quote, I love breaking rules, unquote, when asked if she keeps doing it on the down low. A campus spokesperson told The Fix on Tuesday that Pugh no longer works for the university. According to AIM, I'm assuming that doesn't mean Advanced Idea Mechanics, because in that case, MODOK is not far behind. A conservative advocacy group, administrators at a half dozen North Carolina universities were caught on hidden camera bragging about continuing to push diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in defiance of the Board of Governors' ban, unquote. Asked by The Fix what other universities are involved in the overall probe and when the rest of the videos are scheduled to be released, AIM President Adam Gillette declined to provide specifics. Quote, if you're a radical political activist hiding behind a university business card, we will expose you. There are more investigations to come from North Carolina and many other states, he said via email. Oh boy. He said the videos were filmed during the 2024-2025 school year. Quote, the administrators seemingly thought they were talking to a fellow radical, Gillette told The Fix. Yeah. UNC Charlotte officials will review the incident, Jackson told The Fix. UNC Charlotte takes the statements and assertions made by the former employees seriously. The university, led by the Division of Student Affairs in partnership with the Office of Legal Affairs, will conduct a swift and thorough review to ensure all employees understand and are adhering to applicable policies and laws, she said. I hope you're correct. Several Board of Governors members did not respond to a request for The Fix this week, seeking comment. Senior advisor at Accuracy in Media, education watchdog Corey DeAngelis wrote on X that the university's statement came less than a day after he released the undercover footage. The university also removed Sanders' profile from its website, which previously stated that she is, quote, dedicated to advancing equity, unquote. There was a hint in there. There was a hint as to what she was up to. In the video, Gillette confronted UNCC's Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Jennifer Troyer, asking her to respond to Sanders' comments. Troyer refused to comment. She reportedly deleted her X account after the incident. The Fix contacted Troyer for a comment, but did not receive a response. Senior Associate Provost Lee Gray also appeared in the video, refusing to talk to Gillette. The Fix contacted Gray, but he also did not respond. Woody White. Wouldn't he? One of the members of the UNC Board of Directors responded to the recent report by saying that, quote, this is disappointing to see, unquote, considering that he was reportedly very involved in repealing the DEI initiatives. Quote, I'll be asking our system office to make a formal inquiry about the things said in this video, and I expect that UNC Charlotte will be forthcoming in a response, he wrote on X. Gillette responded to White on X by stating that his organization found out that, quote, 5 additional North Carolina universities, unquote, were opposing the DEI ban. Uh-oh. Gillette confirmed to The Fix the organization plans to expose more universities. He did not say, however, what other campuses are part of the probe and when the other videos will be released. You just said that earlier. Quote, our goal is major reform of corrupted institutions. Higher education should focus on education rather than indoctrination, he told The Fix. Quote, to truly achieve this mission, the Board of Governors needs to make changes at the top, and the legislature must also offer leadership, unquote. Well, that and consequence. Vigilance. Consequence. If you let these guys get rooted in there somewhere, they're going to start pushing it again because this stuff is a virus. And it's been allowed to go on for so long that people think it's normal. And an entire generation now has been raised on this activist ideology nonsense. And they're finding their ways into the levers of power. And so and this is the time. It's been allowed to go on far too long. At least as long as my channel has been on YouTube, this stuff has been going on at least a decade, likely more. But as much as I can say for certain from my own observations, and the enforcement of existing law and consequences for violating it have been absent. That's why I am glad to see that things are happening, but more needs to happen, and more examples need to be made, both in the private sector and in education. The existing and long-standing civil rights laws of this country need to be enforced, and they need to be respected. That's the long and the short. The civil rights movement of the 60s, the people that gave their lives and put their lives on the line to have those laws put on the books to better our country and to ease this society into a better way of being, all of that's being stepped on and spit on in this stuff. To read that Florida commissioner start quoting Dr. Martin Luther King while he's in favor of DEI policies is so bizarro world. And then to lecture other people, well, you should do your research before you quote Dr. Martin Luther King. You don't know what you're talking about. Give me a break. But anyway, with all that being said, Advocast Daily Scribelite, I live just outside Asheville, and this is the first I've heard of this. Well, I am glad to inform and educate. That's what I'm here for, I think. Get some water there. I'm straining my throat with all of my vociferousness. Blue-eyed Scream, my neck of the woods. Ugh, uh-oh. We got a whole bunch of Carolinas over here. We got a residents at the Carolinas. I don't even know if I'm doing the accent correctly, even in a mocking way. I first saw this on a Kirsch stream. Yeah, I keep being referenced in relation to Kirsch, or Kershey. I've been told several times over the last few months that she and I should collaborate or have some kind of meeting of the minds or something. I'm happy to, but, she's so much more popular than I am. I'm kind of starstruck. Nothing about it in my local papers either. Well, why would they? Why would they? This stuff gets buried so easily. Nobody wants to talk about it. They don't want to take a side. If they start reporting on it, it seems like, were we supporting Trump or something? Anybody else? Improbi. Improbi or improbi? Which is it? Wants her rules to be followed but won't follow other rules. Dingbat. Is it pro or prob? I wish to know. I want to be able to pronounce my viewers' names as correctly as I can. Remember Beachy Cogito. Haven't seen Beachy Cogito for quite a while. Or, I'm just going to mess it up by trying. I won't even try. K. Roberts, the alumni and fraternities need to keep an iron fist on the university donations. That's the other thing, too. Yeah, between the donations and the federal funds, it's like, well, which do you want? The donations coming from people who support the ideology, or the giant amounts of federal funding that are dependent on you staying within the boundaries of existing civil rights law? For a long time now, they've been able to do both at the same time. Violate the law and receive those donations, and also get the federal money they shouldn't be receiving for violating the law. Now they're having to choose. And again, the only thing that's going to make a change at this point is enforcement and consequence. Enforcement and consequence. There has to be enforcement, law, and consequence. And like I say, I am waiting. I don't want America First Legal to be leading the charge when the federal government should be the one doing it. I mean, I'm glad that they're doing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that they're doing it. I'm glad that somebody is finally taking some of these companies and institutions to task for what has been obvious for a decade or more now. Blatant disregard for existing laws. and on a massive scale. Imagine how many employment decisions Johnson & Johnson has made over the last 5 years. I'm not even talking about last 10, just the last 5 years. How many employment decisions and promotion decisions in a company the size of Johnson & Johnson in just the United States? Every single employment decision, whether hiring or promotion, is under suspicion because of Johnson & Johnson's stated public practices and goals, quotas, on the basis of race and gender. How many civil rights violations does that come to, do you think? Or potential civil rights violations? And how should Johnson & Johnson be held accountable for those? Well, I guess America First Legal's making an attempt, but they shouldn't be the ones doing it. That's why the federal laws exist. So I'm really, 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 really hoping that in the near future, I see the federal government take action on a significant private sector business who has had a long-running tradition of violating the law, and if nothing else, sets an example to warn off other companies from doing the same or continuing to do the same or even thinking about doing the same should they be caught. And I hope it's just not just one company, because there's plenty to choose from. Let's see. But anyway, I probably sound ridiculous. I know I do. I listen to my voice more often now than I did the entirety of my life prior to YouTube. I know I sound ridiculous. And yet I'm being asked to do voiceover work in the near future. Can't tell you for what. You might find out. Time will tell. But with all that and a tease otherwise, you guys know I have a Discord server? I have a Discord server. Would you like to join the Discord server? Well, if you'd like to, I have a link in the chat right now to the Discord server. You click on that link, you'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream, are not a robot, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is compliance. Just say hello, compliance, and I'll know that you watched the show. Outside of that, you can find me here Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk for education, entertainment, and enlightenment of one form or another with TEDx Bingo. Also, not a usually scheduled event, but tomorrow I intend, granted schedules work out, to have an ambush stream. I know, it kind of defeats the purpose if I say it's an ambush stream before it actually happens. I'll give you a warning. But I just finished watching a show on Netflix. I did. I watched a show on Netflix, a streaming series on Netflix, if you can believe it. And it was utter and absolutely frustrating garbage by the end of it. And boy, do I have a lot to say. What was that series? You'll have to tune in tomorrow. I'll tell you. So keep an eye on the Discord server. Keep an eye on my X account, scribe_light on the X. And you'll find that out tomorrow. I plan on doing it early afternoon-ish tomorrow. Because I got a dentist thing, then I have work stuff, and then I have more work stuff, and then probably the afternoon. I'll give as much warning as I can, probably about an hour or so. So keep your eyes peeled on the Discord server and on X. So, yeah, is Kiever Dam, what time? I'm going to say 1 p.m. Pacific time. I will try to stick to that. 1 p.m. Pacific time. And I'll try to give as much warning as I can ahead of time. So just be wary. It shouldn't be a very long rant. I've got some notes. I'm trying to make sure I have everything sort of arranged and structured before I go so it's not completely all over the place. But that'll be tomorrow. So other than that, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMe's pinned to the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. If you have a localized DEI story you think might make a good fodder for DEI Deathwatch, let me know on X or on the Discord server. I appreciate the tips when I get them. Other than that, if you haven't already, please do leave a like on your way out and or subscribe if you're not already subscribed and or share stuff out if you haven't already shared it out. You know, all the good YouTube stuff. And what else am I missing? Oh, I have a merch store. I never advertise. There's a link in the description. You can get yourself a Pepper Jack t-shirt or a Scribe Light coffee mug. Those are always nice. But otherwise, everybody, it's only Monday. I know it's only Monday. It's going to be a long week. I got a lot of stuff going on this week. I hope everybody has a good rest of your Monday and week ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.